Ya yo te di las instrucciones en el camerino, vamos a hacer una pelea limpia y que gane mejor, okay? I give you instructions in the dressing room. They're having a clean match, okay? Good luck.
There you go. International language of boxing is English. And the referee, they're just reminding Erdei that he wants a nice clean fight. And said it in South American to Garay, that the instructions were already given in the dressing room. So here we go then. The first of a scheduled 12-rounder about to kick off. So will we have a repeat of their first encounter, or will Garay get his just desserts this time? We'll see. Well, nice aggressive start here from the Argentinian. Well, I've got to say also, Erdei looks a lot livelier here tonight. A couple of body shots there from Garay, but took a right to the head. And quite obviously, Garay's come here for looking for the stoppage win. He's not going to trust the points. And who can blame him? Germany have got a terrible reputation of late. In fact, well, the last 10 years, they've developed this reputation of being incredibly hard to win in Germany. If you go the full route, watch out. You've absolutely got to completely batter your opponent. In fact, if you score a knockout, as they used to say about Italy, you'll be lucky to get a draw. Well, it's even harsher in Germany. But of course, the reasons I've mentioned previously, there's an awful lot of investment goes into professional boxing in Germany, and the promoter wants to ensure he gets his investment returned. Nice solid jab there from Erdei. You've got to pay very close attention to this. As I say, in their first encounter, it went very, very controversially, in my opinion, to Erdei. And Garay's a decent fighter. And there'll never be much between these two men. As I say, of Hugo Garay, a former Argentinian and South American champion. Got to say also, at this weight, that doesn't mean a great deal. There's not a huge amount of super middles, light heavies and heavyweights in the South American region. And despite the fact that Erdei is a Hungarian, he's actually Hamburg-based. Nice little body shot there from Hugo. Takes a lovely jab back from Erdei. Well, the old saying, you know, if they hit you once, hit them back twice. I think that's what Garay's come in with the intention of doing. If he takes a shot, he'll try and land two. Well, solid defense here from the Argentinian. Well, not a bad start then from the challenger in this opening session. He might just have the slightest of edges. In fact, I'd say he has. Reasonably close, don't get me wrong. Yes, I think Garay's nicked the first round. So Erdei down as anticipated. And he's got a bit of a graze there by the right eye. There hasn't been a clash of heads, so one can only assume that that's come from a punch. Now, whether it was the inside of the glove or not, no, it's a bruise, isn't it? And a graze. It may well have been the inside of the glove, who knows? And like a good pro that he is, Erdei just sitting there, soaking up the information, allowing the corner man to work on the potential injury. Well, it is an injury. There's no potential about it at all. It does exist. So a bit of Vaseline then around that spot for Erdei, and this man also got plenty of Vas around the eyes. Into round two we go. Gotta say, Erdei's record is not littered with names particularly. He did have a first-round knockout win over Ramdan Sojan, who's been a pretty solid fighter over the years. And so far, the only real name on the Garay record is that of the man he's facing here tonight, Zsolt Erdei. And An awful lot of concentration required here. You just take your foot off the pedal for a second, you're in bother. Little right there, good counter punch from Erdei. Oh, lovely uppercut. Well, this has not been a voluntary by any means for Erdei. This has been ordered by the WBO because it was so controversial. But Erdei there lands a cracking uppercut of his own. I can't see, by the way, either of these hitting the deck. They are two solid professionals. And by the way, Erdei turned pro a year earlier, in the year 2000, after the Olympic Games. Garay in 2001. Well, Erdei looking a little bit tricky here in the second round, and as a result, has got his nose in front. And quite naturally, of course, with a bit of damage there around by the right eye, Erdei has got his gloves nice and high, making sure it doesn't get any worse. Get decent round this one now for the reigning champion. So the reigning and defending WBO super middleweight champion then, Zsolt Erdei, beginning to get in the groove here, having lost the first round, in my opinion, to Hugo Garay of Argentina. Well, South American referee there warning Erdei not to blatantly push off. It actually takes quite a bit of energy to do that. You're far better off just moving out of distance. So 20 seconds left and in the second round, and this one will level things up. Nice uppercut right hook there from Erdei. Quite a solid fighter, isn't he, Garay? Hard to hurt, not that hard to nail. Lovely body shot there from Hugo Garay. Good round this, I think, for Erdei. So to round 3 of this WBO light heavyweight championship, and Zsolt Erdei, well, I think he just pulled back around there by winning the second, having lost the first. And don't forget, the first time these two men met, it was a majority verdict in favour of the champion in his first defence of this title. Not that this title means it. And funny enough, the interesting thing is, I think these fighters make the championship. I don't think it's the other way around. Two decent light heavyweights. If I said super middleweight before, I do apologise. Slip of the tongue. But I've no doubt that Erdei could probably make super middle quite comfortably. He looks a bit on the fleshy side. Incidentally, Erdei is 5'10", and I believe Garay is 6 foot tall. Well, this is much better now here from Zsolt Erdei. He's darting in and out, getting the punches off, but a couple of lovely jabs there again from Garay, but didn't step in behind them, and that's one of the major problems. And again, whipping in that body shot. And there's a bit of me thinks that Garay's not a natural fighter like Erdei. I mean, there's some of the things he does that look reasonably forced. Oh, lovely right there from Erdei. Took it well though, didn't he? And I've got a feeling, you know, oh, beautiful stuff again from these two. Yes, the feeling I have is that both of these men can probably compete with the best in the world. Yeah, no one's trying to, of course, say just because they're WBO champion and challenger that they are the greatest. That's by far not the case. But as I say, I think Both these men could compete with the top men. So a decent effort from Garay here in the third, but he's not getting the success maybe that effort deserves. Well, nice uppercut from Garay again. Very close round this. And you can't take your eye off the ball for a second, or even a split second, because you'll pay the price. Well, I tell you what, no, I won't go level on that one. I'm going to go for Erdei there. I thought he was just by an absolute squeak the master in that round. So there he is then, tough guy from Argentina, Hugo Hernan. 23 wins, 1 defeat, and that's against the man he's got here. 12 wins inside the limit, so not a great puncher in his own right, although he may well have developed since the earlier days. There's that cracking right. And what did Garay do? Came straight back at him. So if you ignore that relatively poor decision that Garay suffered against Erdei the first time they met, he's an undefeated fighter. Up against an undefeated fighter. In this man, 21 straight wins, 13 inside. As we come out for round 4. So the Hungarian, the champion at the light heavyweight division in the white shorts, predominantly anyway. And Garay, by the way, is not the kind of guy you would eagerly take on, is he? And of course, it's an age-old story. Great fighters often don't get title shots until they're long past their best, or if at all. Oh, lovely little shot there from Erdei. Yes, there's an awful lot of politicking, I should say, in the sport of boxing that precludes a lot of great fighters from reaching the pinnacle of the sport. And a nice little flurry of shots there again from Garay. The crowd enthralled by this action, and me too. Hope you are as well. It's a finely poised contest, this. It's a return that was an absolute natural. And he can be a wee bit in and out, Zsolt Erdei, in performance terms anyway. As the rounds go by, you know, one round he'll have a cracker, the next one it won't be quite as good. Now that may mean his attitude drifts slightly, or it might mean the opponent comes on a wee bit. And I'd say at this point, it's a bit of both. Well, at the moment, this looks like a round for Garay to level things up again. And as I say, there will never be much between these two men. Two decent fighters. And it's just a shame that their legacy will be tarnished, because whether or not they ever get the crack at you know, one of the main champions, and don't even ask me who they are, because there are so many. Yes, they'll always be the nearly men, won't they? So maybe Erdei just taking a wee bit of rest as the rounds go by. Fighters do that. You have a cracking man, all of a sudden a very quiet one. But that round, I believe, has gone Garay's way. Dead level again at 38 points apiece. no idea. Just in case you were wondering. But thanks anyway.
Weggehen lassen, schnell Gegenschlag. Nicht von außen mit den beiden Schlägen. Ja, kurz, der rechte kurz, ganz kurz rein, also feststeht. Erwischt ihn. Du brauchst wieder so lange Tür.
Bit of replay then from the 4th round. And that's Garay landing a left-right. So they've actually controlled that bruising around the right side pretty well, haven't they? Not any worse. Here we go then into round 5 of the scheduled dozen, and dead level for me at 38 points apiece, which translates at 2 rounds each with 4 gone. So can Garay make better use of that height advantage, and consequently, I imagine a reach advantage? Looks like he's got pretty long arms anyway, but what he's doing is he's actually fighting at a range that suits Erdei. And I remember Richie Woodall. Richie's always got this thing about boxing at long range, mid-range or close range, and he's absolutely right. You know, you've got to get to a range that you're comfortable with, providing, of course, you have the style to exploit that range. And ideally, in an ideal world, of course, Garay wouldn't take a forward step. He'd just wait for Erdei to commit and then pop out the counters, but he's not doing that. As you can see, he's actually closing the gap and getting to a range that suits Erdei more. Well, looks like Garay's got Erdei in his sights here now. Moving around the ring, controlling where Erdei can go and where he can't. And of course you do that with your feet. And once again see a mistake there from Garay, getting very, very close to Erdei and not letting the punches go. And as a result, getting caught. That said, not a bad round at the moment, this, for Garay. But if I was Garay's coach, I would teach him to box men like this at half a pace further back and make him not such a slugger as more of a boxer. At the moment, of course, all he's looking for is a good old-fashioned punch-up here, which I don't really mind, but I don't think it's very successful. It's not a recipe for success for Garay by any means, and he could make life easier for himself. And this crowd are enthralled by this, and so they should be. It's a very interesting match. And this is a decent round now for Garay. Erdei, once again, has not had the success he has worked for, particularly, I thought, in round 2. Last few seconds of the 5th then. And this is going to put Garay in front by a point for me, although it did take a right hand there, but too little too late from Erdei. Yep, the crowd waiting till the end of the round to applaud. Well, what can they do with Erdei? As I say, he's had a couple of quiet rounds here. Principally rounds 5 and 4. Is he just taking a wee bit of time out here, looking to rally a wee bit later on? Certainly fit enough to do 12 hard rounds. In fact, they both are. And by the way, both of these men have completed 4 12-round matches. So here we go then for round 6 of this scheduled 12. And for my money, at this point, it's 48-47, Hugo Garay over Zsolt Erdei. Garay, of course, will have learnt from his previous trip to Germany. And it was his first trip to Germany, by the way. Had boxed in Spain before. This is just his second trip to Germany, third to Europe in all. He will have realised, of course, that, you know, you can't leave anything to chance in a German boxing ring against a German-based reigning and defending champion. You've got to rip it out of him. Whether or not, of course, Garay is capable of doing that remains to be seen. But once again, a decent start to this round from the Argentinian. And Erdei not too hard to hit at this point, and that is rather surprising. I just wonder whether he'll end up with a long career or not, or whether it'll be aborted. I've got a feeling he's not going to be around forever, you know. But then again, I suppose if this is the best the WBO can come up with, he's not a bad fighter, don't get me wrong, Garay. But I suspect everyone else is below him. Nice right there from Erdei. Oh, lovely little shot. Good punch that from Erdei. Just goes to show how tough Garay is. That was thrown with a lot of speed, a lot of pace, and smack on the target. And the Argentinian just walked straight through it. Shows what a tough man he is. But of course the volume of punches is coming from the challenger at the moment. But the quality may well be coming from the champion. Take your pick. Personally, I only take into account the quality of punch when everything else is equal. Again, left, right there from Garay. And a belting round this at the moment. Both men having their moments. It's getting slightly untidy compared to, of course, the first 3 or 4 rounds. Because as fatigue begins to set in, and let's face it, it does, because it's a tough, tough sport, this. Your discipline lacks slightly, and I tell you what, there's nothing in that round for me. That's dead level. So look at my scorecard, 58-57 in favour of the challenger. There he is. So Hugo Garay in a dead level round there, I thought, with Zsolt Erdei, which could have gone either way, let's face it, but for me, I've called it level. That's that cracking right again from Erdei. Here we go then for the halfway point of our chief supporting contest. This is the WBO Light Heavyweight Championship. Zsolt Erdei coming out for the 7th round against the challenger, Hugo Garay of Argentina. Erdei, Hungarian but German-based, undefeated in 21 fights. He's 30 years of age and he's scored 13 knockouts. Hugo Garay is younger at 24. He's won 23, lost just 1, and that was the first time these two met, and he scored 12 knockouts, so very close. Former Argentinian and South American champion. Getting a second crack here at the champion, ordered by the WBO because of the controversy surrounding their first fight. Nice bit of work there from Garay, but once again just stood around a wee bit too long, admiring his own work. That's not good enough. You've got to get on the bike. And once again, fast little punches these from Garay. Probably realised he can't actually hurt Erdei, so what's the point in trying? Although you've got to punch pretty hard to get your opponent's respect at all times. And I can't stress enough how much work goes into becoming a professional fighter at this kind of level. I mean, it's hard enough at any level, don't get me wrong, but when you start moving up in class and up in distance, the amount of work that goes into becoming fit enough to compete is quite incredible. Although I never boxed huge distances, like 10 and 12 rounds, you know, in the gym, of course, we've all done it. Even novice fighters will do an awful long time in the gym, which gives them the confidence to do it on the night. Well, we're inside the last minute here, and once again, not a great round this for Erdei at the moment. Well, it looks like Erdei now has shifted to a counter-puncher stance here. He's pulling back and then letting them go. And it really is something I think that Garay should be doing instead. Because, as I say, he's got the height and reach to do that at a slightly more comfortable distance. Maybe just one of these crazy fighters who loves a good old-fashioned punch-up. Well, half a right there from Erdei. Well, the bell's about to end this 7th round, and once again, I've got a feeling here, despite appearing like it's been a reasonable one for Erdei, I think Garay has done the more effective work in that particular round. So 68 to him and 66 to the champion. Well, he doesn't look the happiest of bunnies, does he, Zsolt Erdei, at this point? I've got him 2 points behind. Bit of replay then. And I've got a feeling here that Erdei's going to have to raise his game over the last 5 rounds. He can't afford to lose too many more. Well, that was a decent... It's actually better on the replay than I thought it was first time round. Yep, into the 8th round we go. So Zsolt Erdei, for me, 2 behind. I need a good one here. If he doesn't get it, he'll fall 3 behind and only have 4 to play, and that will not be at all healthy. Well, yes, it's a decent start then to the 8th round here from Erdei. At last, he's come to life. But once again, Garay is irrepressible, really. He just keeps on going. And by the way, it's always been a bad idea to lead with a hook unless you're absolutely certain it's going to land. Oh. Well, 2 body shots from Hugo, then a nice little right back from Erdei. Sometimes I don't think Garay throws those punches with absolute conviction. And you really need to do that. You know, you can't be half-hearted about an attack. You know, you've got to decide what you're going to do and do it, regardless of what your opponent does. And don't forget, these men thinking long in advance about what they're likely to do. 6, 7, I suppose at this level they could be 10 or 12 moves in front. You know, if you decide to do this and he does that, then I do this and he does that, you know, and that's the way it goes. That's how fighters' minds work. That's what having a good boxing brain is all about. Being able to try and anticipate your opponent's move. If you do a certain thing and he's going to come back at you, because you know, that's what you expect. Of course, it's the unorthodox fighters that give thinkers trouble, because they don't know what they're going to do next, so you can't work them out. A la Aaron Pryor, for instance. Very unorthodox man. So half a minute to go then in this 8th round. And still Erdei needs a wee bit of space between these two here to make sure of this one. Needs a good finish over the last 20. Or at least he needs to prevent Garay from getting a good finish. Well, Hugo beginning to look a wee bit lumpy now around the right-hand side of his face. Nice punches there again from Erdei. Looks like he's going to pull around back here. Oh, takes a cracking right on the bell. But I've got a feeling Garay there has just lost that one by a whisker. So this man still in front by a single point now for me. I wonder how you're seeing this at home. Hopefully you're enjoying it as much as I am, and the crowd here. Bit of replay. And that's been a very, very popular combination, hasn't it, from Garay? Left to the head, then 2 downstairs, but he's always seemed to get caught on the way out. Yes, into round 9 we go. And don't forget, on paper, Garay has got a slightly more impressive record than Erdei. A couple of more wins and, of course, beaten at least one man anyway, more conclusively than Erdei. So never an easy task, this. We are in the 9th round. 77-76 to Garay for me. Clash of heads there. Garay pointed out, Erdei apologises. But it was nothing intentional there by any means. Incidentally, a clash of heads in the heat of battle can go completely unnoticed. Other times it doesn't. You can really feel the crack and the associated pain that goes with it, of course. Nice bit of work there again from Garay. Well, now Erdei realises he's got to dig deep here and fight to retain his title. And as you can see, Erdei keeping that right hand high and tight. He doesn't want that bruising to turn into a cut. And you know what, looking at these two men, it makes me wonder why on earth I ever bothered. And there is no doubt about it, this is a dangerous sport. It's by no means the most dangerous. In fact, it's way down the list. But as I say, you can minimise the dangers by being supremely fit and know your craft. But both men are having their moments in this 9th round. A minute to go, though. Oh, lovely little combination there from Erdei. Then, as you saw, he used the angle very intelligently off to his own left-hand side. And that's another thing, as the uppercut lands, don't go forwards or backwards in a straight line. It makes you very easy to hit. Or at least it can do. Much more easy to hit than someone who goes round to the side. But then again, I remember Larry Holmes when he fought Alfredo Evangelista. My goodness me, Holmes just strolled away, then spun around and hit him with a cracking right hand and knocked poor old Alfredo spark out. Well, terrific stuff this. Once again, a lovely combination there from Erdei. Following up on a combination, of course, landed by Garay. And I think that's a round for Erdei to once again level it up. So round 10 coming up then. It's been a fascinating contest so far, this one. 86 points each on my card. And the reigning champion, Zsolt Erdei, has had to dig deep here to get himself back on level terms against Hugo Garay of Argentina, who's fought a blinder at times. So it's a 3-round fight then from here on in. And Garay has barely taken a backward step in this fight, but it's not always been successful for him moving forward like this. As I suggested earlier, sometimes you've got to get a distance that's sensible, and he doesn't do that. He might learn one day, who knows? Well, you can't argue with that flurry of punches here late in the fight. And Erdei, well, he's almost sauntering at times, isn't he? No time for posturing, Zsolt. Got to work. And not a bad round at the moment for Garay here. We've not, of course, come to the halfway point yet. And I've got to say, this is very similar, reminiscent of their first contest. And their first contest, of course, was last May. So almost a year. In that time, as I say, Erdei's had 1, and Garay has had 3. Well, with a minute to go, I've still got Erdei needing a bit of work to do in this round. And that's one major problem here for Erdei. Garay is still very keen on winning this. And that's a nice little right hand. I don't think Garay, by the way, is essentially a massive puncher. But he's solid enough, don't worry about that. He's certainly got Erdei's respect. Well, I've got to say, at this point, looks like Garay is going to edge this 10th round. That's right there again. Bit of posturing from these two. Yes, Garay, for me, has nicked the 10th round to put himself once again a point in front at 96 to 95. 2 to play. And to retain his title, this man has got to win the 11th and 12th for me. Well, Fritz Zdunek there will probably appreciate that. Here we go, bit of replay. And Garay there. This is at the beginning of the round. Landing with impunity, virtually. Yeah, penultimate round then. And the one before, by the way, was the anti-penultimate round, in case you're wondering, as someone once told me on an email. So round 11. And as I say, I've got Erdei needing this one and the last for victory. One thing we don't need is another contentious verdict in Germany. And there are times in this fight when I'm worried about Erdei's concentration. He just seems to take his eye off the ball, his foot off the pedal. Lovely right there from the pair of them. And Garay, as you can see, is still the chaser here. He's putting Erdei under pressure, although I got to say, nice little comeback there from the champion. So the light heavyweight title then sitting in the balance at the moment. It's been a cracking little fight, this. Thoroughly enjoying it. And it's a fascinating contest in as much as I say, these two men probably deserve to be up there with the best. And of course, we have a WBA light heavyweight title fight to follow this one. Fabrice Tiozzo against Dariusz Michalczewski. That's next. And let's just see how these would probably cope with that particular challenge. Well, less than a minute to go now in this 11th round. Very tight. Well, once again, he's putting the shots together. And they're both pretty worn out here. And Garay trying to stop that nosebleed of his. It's been there for a couple of rounds now. It's not a major problem, incidentally. And incidentally, the nose does toughen up to punches over the years. So it doesn't bleed quite as readily for some. For others, you can't stop it. Well, I tell you something, once again, I've got to say, that round there goes, I believe, Garay's way. 106, now 104. How many times have I said that a visiting fighter is beating a reigning champion from Germany, in Germany, but it is as tight as a drum, this one. But a replay coming up from the 11th round. Well, that's interesting. A half, 6, 7, 8 punches coming in here from Garay. And then Erdei tries to get back at him and lands 3 or 4. Well, this is almost identical to their first fight in scoring terms anyway. 106 to 104. In my opinion, this man is behind by 2 points with only 1 to play. I don't think he can win this one. Unless, of course, he wins this round and scores a knockdown, which looks ever so unlikely. And again, look at this terrific start here for Garay. Well, he wants to be absolutely certain of victory here. Doesn't want to leave anything to the judges, but he's going to have to, because this one's going to go the full route. And once again, Garay then making a cardinal error of standing too close. Although he's got a boxer's stance, he's not essentially a boxer, is he, Garay? He's more of a fighter, and he knows it. In his heart, he wants to get stuck in. When in his brain, he should be standing back and popping out those longer punches. And I've got to say, the WBO have done no favours to their champion here, ordering this rematch. Incidentally, if you're wondering how they earn their money, the organisations, they charge, I think, 3% of the fighter's purse. That's what they take to sanction a fight. And that can be pretty substantial, as you can probably imagine. Others have a flat fee, and others have a percentage. Nice little right there from Erdei, but a good uppercut from Garay. Well, I can't see Erdei winning this one. Once again, he gets pushed back here by Garay's punches. It's been almightily close, and I have gone evens, I think, on 1 round, or was it on 2 rounds? So I think I've gone evens on 1, which could, of course, gone Erdei's way, which means that this one is separating them by a single point. But as I say, so often we see it not happening that way. Well, Erdei lunging now, looking desperate in the last few seconds. Once again, getting punched into the corner here by a very determined challenge from Hugo Garay as they clash heads again. And that's another result of tiredness. When a fighter bends at the waist like Erdei is doing, it's a sign he's very tired. Well, he's fighting his heart out here, but I don't think he's done enough. And I think he's going to lose this for the 2nd time. But don't forget the 1st time. I thought that, and he won it. Well, 1-1-6 to 1-1-3, in my opinion, in favour of the challenger, Hugo Garay from Argentina. He finished freshly. He finished well. Erdei finished like he was completely sold in the last half minute. Well, we'll have to see where this one goes. Will we have yet another contentious decision in Germany, or will, for once, we come up with the right one? Don't get me wrong, I'm not getting heavy on German boxing, because I thoroughly enjoy it. But there's got to come a point when the right thing is done. And in my opinion, although, you know, it was an arguable decision at times, some of the rounds are very, very close. I've actually got a 3-point gap there, 116 to 113 in favour of the challenger, which I think is about the same way as I had it previously. And I've got a feeling this man will always master Erdei. He's just too busy. Not only that, he's a real tough guy. So a bit of replay then from the last session here. You can see the pain on Erdei's face of going the full route in a tough encounter with a decent fighter. How would these two fare against Fabrice Tiozzo or Dariusz Michalczewski? And we'll be seeing them next. Well, Garay thinks he's won it. I think he's won it. He thought he won it last time. Didn't get it. Will he get this one? Both men finished bloody around the nose. It's the least you can expect. Now let's just watch Ali, who's leaning over the ropes there, the nearest to us. And let's just see if he makes any gesture at all here to Erdei, or indeed the corner. Here we go then for the official verdict.
So, meine Damen und Herren, wir kommen jetzt zum offiziellen Urteil. Und wir gehen, meine Damen und Herren, natürlich auf die Punktzettel. Joachim Jakobsen, 115, 113.
115, 113.
Lynn Carter, 110, 118.
118, 110. Goodness me.
112, 106 und damit Alter und neuer Weltmeister im Schwergewicht.
Oh my goodness me. Well, there you go again. 116, 112, 115, 113 and 118, 110 for a female judge. Well, that's... I don't know what to say here for Hugo Garay. Once again, he's been badly treated in Germany. And I've got to say, Erdei has got to consider himself very fortunate to come out with that one. And the crowd are booing. They're whistling long and hard here. Erdei can't feel happy about himself. Well, next up, Fabrice Tiozzo in action against Dariusz Michalczewski.